this video, I want to show you how to get a marble finish using your embossing powders. Let me show you how to do it. I like to take a plastic container that has a lid on it so I can save any extra powder. You don't need very much. I'm just going to add a little bit of early espresso embossing powder to the container and a little bit of pool party. There we go. And just give them a good shake to mix them up. And it really is just that easy. You can take a look at your powder, make sure that it's kind of got the consistency that you want. Then I'm going to take and ink up my image with Versamark. So just give it a good going over. Make sure that everything is inked up as it should be. And with a big image like this, I like to lay the stamp down and apply the ink to it rather than trying to get it onto the ink pad by going the opposite way. Once that's all inked up, I'm just going to take my cardstock and stamp the image onto the cardstock and just give it a good press down to make sure that I've got good contact with that cardstock. You'll notice because I'm using a clear mount, I've got the image and the greeting on at the same time. I'm just going to take a piece of copy paper now, open it up. The important thing is to give this another shake. I find that depending on the colors of powder, they may settle differently into the container. So by giving it a shake again, I've got all my colors blended together. And then I'm just going to apply them onto my paper here. Move it around so I've got everything covered up. And then just tap the excess off. Now I can take and fold this up and just return the powder that's left right into the container without any waste. And I'll just put that off to the side. I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss this now. I find it does take a little bit longer, so make sure you give it a good going over. I find that in this one, the pool party seems to melt first. So by going over everything a couple of times, it gives the chance to the early espresso to melt as well. You can see as it starts to become shiny that those powders are melting, which is exactly what we want. It's a good idea to always work in good light and then just turn your card a little bit when you're done to make sure that everything is shiny and melted. The embossing powder is really hot, so never touch it because you will burn yourself right away. Here's a little tip for you. If you find an area that you've missed, if you've got an old blender pen sitting around, just tap it into your Versamark pad. You can go back, put a little bit more Versamark ink onto the part you missed, add your powder. Let me get my copy paper first. Add your powder. Go back and heat it a second time and nobody will ever know. Let me show you the finished card again. So here I've just stamped it, heat embossed it, added a little banner here as part of the additional greeting. Another technique I want to show you using colored embossing powders is the rainbow technique. So I have two sample cards here that I've done. For this one I've used gold and silver powders. Silver down the middle on either side, since I was using gold paper, some gold in the middle. And then this other card where I've used Tempting Turquoise, Basic Black, and Melon Mambo embossing powders. So let me show you how to do this technique. In exactly the same way, we're going to ink up the swallowtail stamp with Versamark. And again, I find it easier to lay the big stamps down and just take the pad directly to them. You'll notice that my pad is pretty beat up looking, and that's okay. They get this way, no worries. As long as you're using colored embossing powder, nobody will ever know. I'm going to take now and stamp onto cardstock. And just give it a little press to make a good impression. And I'm going to take and start with the lightest color of embossing powder, which in this case is Tempting Turquoise. Let me just grab my copy paper here. So I'm going to put it down. I'm going to do about 1/3 of the image. So I'm just going to go over about 1/3 of this. I want to kind of keep the edge straight. Maybe go a little bit more. There we go. Tap off the excess and then return my powder to its container. I'm going to go to the next color now, which is the Melon Mambo. And I'm going to put it on the other third here. Again, kind of giving a straight line. Tap off the excess. And again, this can be returned right to its container. Now note that I did not emboss between, so these powders are both still wet. So no heat embossing until the very end. Now I'm going to take my black. This one I've already got in the container, so I'm just going to add it with a spoon. I want to make sure I go over everything that's been left undone. So I am going just a little bit over the edges of the other powder that was done. Tap off the excess. Now, if you tapped it off between, and you did a good job of it, this powder can go right back into your container because there won't be any little flecks of that other color there. Now, I noticed that I've got some powder here that I don't want, so I'm just going to take and remove it before I heat emboss everything. A few more good flicks might help that. So once I've done that, I'm going to go now and just heat emboss. Again, it takes a little while, so I want to make sure that everything gets embossed evenly, remembering that everything is hot. I like to kind of start in one corner, move it around in small circles, and as that corner starts to melt, just move through the rest of the image. Once your heat gun's been on for a little while, things do tend to melt a little faster. And this is exactly what you're doing. You're melting plastic or polyester, which is what embossing powders are made from. So once I've got that turquoise done, I'm going to move on to the black here. If you keep your gun totally perpendicular to your paper, so straight up and down, you'll find that your paper doesn't blow around. And now we're going to do the Melon Mambo last here and get all that done as well. There we go. Take a good look at it again. I like to just swing it around, make sure we haven't missed any parts, that everything is melted evenly. And just another last look at the finished cards. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.